The internet ruins everything.
Or do they?
Welcome to Triangle Square Day PlayStation Podcast. I am your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me, Mr.
Saul Bridges, bringing you episode 69, Lucky and Dirty, episode 69, if you have a immature little brain like me and Brett both do.
Hey, humor's humor.
Gutter humor.
It's humor. Hey, it's okay. We're still in our 20s, right? It's all supposed to be there until you get like, oh, well, crap. You don't have long.
Yeah, I got 3 years.
I'm on the wrong side of it these days, so.
I guess that's true.
I'm going to say that the entirety of 25, I'm there. I'm good. You know, I'm not on the wrong side of it until 26.
You just wait till you're 27.
So.
And I'm sure people listening to this that are like older than us, who we know there are, they're like, shut up.
Yeah, probably.
We're young. But Brett, let the people know who we are.
We are Triangle Square Day Places Podcast, like I said earlier, and you can find us if you are joining us for the first time, usually on YouTube in video format on Mondays at 10 a.m. PST and 12 p.m. CST, in case you're part of the Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma areas,
Louisiana,
you know, all those places that are in the central, and then the ones up north that I can't ever remember. What is it, like Chicago? Are we in that? Are we Chicago time? I can't ever remember.
What? Yeah, we're Chicago time.
Yeah, so there we go. Yeah, if you're up in those parts, but we also are on podcast services in audio only format. If you do listen to us on there on iTunes specifically, you could consider giving us a review. It helps us get our numbers up there, helps people find us a little bit easier, and of course, it lets us know what we are doing right and wrong, and we will kind of take those into account to adjust as much as we see fit. Let's see. Man. We are also on Discord. If you want to join us there, we keep those down in the links. The link for it down in the description for both the podcast services as well as YouTube. You can find us on Patreon, where you can support us at $1, $2, or $5 tier, where currently it's just really to support us. I mean, there's the small things that you get, but we are working on doing that, which we really, really need to get down to the nitty gritty. We're just busy right now. A lot of schedule stuff. And to wrap it all up, you can find us on Twitter at Triangle SQRD, where we have our reader mail questions, which we'll get into eventually, where we take those and read them on air. And if we don't get to them on air, then we take them and answer them on our reader mail episodes that we do once a month, where we compile all the ones we didn't get around to and get them into their own reader mail episode. With that said, Saul.
Yes, sir.
What have you been playing this week?
A little bit of everything this week. I haven't had a whole lot of time in the past couple days. Been playing, of course, Octopath. I haven't played that since, I think, Wednesday evening, or Tuesday. And I'm hoping, if everything goes well tonight, I can hop back into that and instead of going to work. And the same goes for tomorrow. When I get home tomorrow from 5 o'clock, I'm definitely going to hop back into some Octopath. But I've still been playing Rainbow. I don't know what it is lately. I've been like rekindled and addicted to that game. But,
Siege, right?
Yeah, Siege. And then I actually downloaded, you said it earlier, I actually downloaded Enter the Gungeon for the Switch, and it actually plays really well. I had to get used to the controls because the controls are quite weird. But other than that, like, that's kind of it. I knew the second Octopath Traveler came out that I'd be taking a break on Kingdom Hearts playthrough, so I have stopped my Kingdom Hearts 2 playthrough fairly early on, so I'll probably hop back into that relatively soon. But I think that's really it.
Did you decide to stop squishing his face?
I did.
Thought you might make him mad?
For whatever reason, Shift and GIMP is not working right where it's supposed to keep perspective. I downloaded Rocket League again on PS4. We all need to play that.
You just completely missed my pun, but that's okay.
No, I did. No, I got it.
Purpose.
I chose to ignore it. But yeah.
So did you say on Switch, though?
No, on PS4. I just re-downloaded it.
Okay, no, I was just curious because, I mean, you said re-download it.
Yeah.
So you never owned it on Switch, right?
No, that would be a good system to have it on, I think, if the controls well. But
yeah, I'm curious. There's quite a bit going on for that small of a screen.
Not really.
If you're playing in handheld, in my opinion, I don't know. That's actually one of the few games where I'm like, I actually see a real need because
to have it on your TV?
I guess it depends on how you play too. I mean, if you follow the ball camera,
and that's
or play free, and the more strategic players don't follow the ball.
I can't remember what was like the more competitive thing to do is to have the ball camera or not, but
or at least in terms of there's a lot of strategies that people use.
Right, and it was fun. Me, you, and Blaze used to play it for
I love the game.
While actually. Yeah. I'm hoping, even though that I know you got the platinum in it, I'm hoping that maybe we can start all back with people again. I know Liam said there was a bronze trophy or something that wouldn't pop for him, so maybe we can all get a Rocket League going together. every
A
Tuesday
Rocket
night.
League.
Yeah, every Tuesday night we'd all hop on Rocket League. But that's kind of been it. What about you?
Okay, well, let's see. I have played. I think since the last episode, I was going to start Air. I played Air and beat it. Very fun little game. Definitely for the price. I think I paid $5.99 for it, if I'm not mistaken. Real fun, cool art style. It takes like this real polygonal style where it was similar in terms of like color and general style of something along the line of like Rime, where it's really artsy and colorful, but not a lot of necessarily not a lot of detail. Like there's not real textures as much as it's colors kind of going around. But what made it interesting is that the models were all, you actually saw the polygonal shape of them. So you'd see like the triangles and squares making up her character model. They weren't smoothed over. I thought that was a cool idea. And I will say, man, that game's like navigation is really fun. It's, in case y'all haven't seen it, it's a game where you play as this human character where you can actually jump and then turn into a bird and fly around these islands. It's like the story is basically that all these islands were once joined as the primary world. And then what ends up happening is that some big event happens that causes all of them to break apart. And the world's like, it's kind of technically I don't say apocalyptic because that's not really, it doesn't fit in with the visual style that normally goes that route. But in a way
like
it is.
Absolver, where it's like really barren.
In a sense,
yeah.
but it's actually not barren because it's a very colorful game. It's got really cool, there's like a snowy area and all this stuff. There's an area that's got like a lot of waterfalls and whatnot. And
yeah, I saw.
Then there's like a city area. The game is really cool, and I mean, the only thing I'll say that was really, it's a fun, easy platinum. It's actually got one of those trophy lists where you don't feel like you're trying too hard to do any one thing. There's only one trophy that's technically missable if you don't do something at one point in the game. So if you're going to play it and want to go for the guide, it wouldn't be hard to go back and catch this trophy. But you may want to go to a trophy guide just to make sure you don't miss this one. And it's like a game of hide and seek kind of thing that you have to do at a specific part of the game. Other than that, really fun, simple. I think it has a really cool world. It's one of those games that doesn't have combat, but it doesn't need it. It's got it's more of a exploration puzzle style game where you go through different temples and stuff like that. Once you get into these areas, you get keys to different places. You go through a temple, solve it, and get something out of it, and go through. The story is actually interesting. There's quite a bit of things that you can read that are like lore pieces that are around that you can read that are pretty cool. There's spirit animals you can stop and talk to that are pretty cool when you see them, and it kind of tells even more of a story about what's going on in the world if you choose to see them out a little bit more. But definitely the final bit of the game, it feels like you're going to get to spend more time with it than you actually end up getting to, and it kind of just comes off. So it's one of those games that is great to me. It's very fun and really pulls you in all the way up until the end, where you just feel like, why am I not actually getting to do some of that? And it's actually kind of ends in a way where you're not sure what happened completely. Like, but you're not.
That's almost that. I mean, it's not a killer for me, but that really can rough me around the edges.
It's interesting. I still mostly enjoy the game. And also because the character model for this dude was so crazy cool, and you didn't get to spend but one cutscene with him. You didn't even get to physically do anything. It was just one of those things. I was like, man, I really wish that we would have had more time here at the end. But indie games are weird, and they may have had a reason. They may have wanted you to end with that. Wait, what exactly just happened? Kind of thing. You feel like, I don't know. I don't want to get too much into it. So, but very fun. I think if that's something you'd like, if it sounds like something you like, I know the mid-year sale is gone, but if it goes on sale again, I would consider catching it. I think the base price is normally $15, which isn't just ridiculous, but $6 is obviously an easier pill to swallow there.
And it's your 50th platinum too, right?
And it was my 50th platinum. Not necessarily that I was aiming for that. It just ended up happening that way. I've also been playing Cat Lateral Damage. Way too much of Cat Lateral Damage.
I saw y'all talking about that in Discord. I have no idea what that is.
Okay, so it's a game where you play as a cat. And the whole goal of the game is just to unlock more cats and whatnot by going through areas, like be it a house and then a house in the country and then like a shopping center or a marketplace or a museum. Basically what you're doing is going through and being a cat. You're meowing and knocking stuff over and picking stuff up and running around.
That sounds amazing. Please tell me that's not a full price game, because Annie would love it.
No, I think it goes on sale often. I think I paid $2 for it, $3 for it. I think normally it's $10 or something like that, maybe $15. Even then, it's really stupid, but it's really funny. It's one of those games that when you're just sitting there, you're playing it, and it's really more fun than you imagine that it should be. But you can just meow on command and swat, like it's so left trigger and right trigger, your left and right hand, and then L1 and R1 are like straight arming yourself out so you can knock stuff off the table. It kind
of sounds like Human Fall Flat. That had a control scheme that's kind of similar to that, or reminiscent of that, I should say. And that was a really fun game.
Yeah, anyway, it's real fun. I'm almost to the platinum. The platinum's just a little bit of work in terms of, like, I feel like I'm actually, because I'm going for the platinum, I'm wearing myself on the game a little bit, but I'm real close. I've only got one trophy left, which is 50 of the objective level, so I'm real close to that. Let's see. I started playing Crisis Core.
I saw that. You didn't exactly play it ethically, did you?
Square doesn't want to give me the means to do so. So, in a little bit of experimentation, I have gotten Crisis Core running on my
good?
Vita. Yes, so good.
See, that makes me. Can you do what you're doing on a new Vita?
Yes, all Vita.
So
including the Vita TV. I don't want to get too much into that. But
no, yeah. So I can literally go buy a Vita TV for like $2 they're on Amazon, pretty much. And
no, they're not going for that anymore. They were, but
are they really expensive again?
No, but they're like $70.
Okay, that's not bad. I mean, I'd much rather.
And this also lets you take off all the games that get blacklisted, and you can play any game on it. That way,
I would be worried of possible ramifications. I know that there's like a proxy for online and stuff, but if it ever got back,
but I mean,
banned,
even then, I'm just saying,
all your 50 platinum's gone, my boy.
Yeah, but I'm also not playing online, so it doesn't matter, and I'm only using this for one specific thing. So
I guess that's true.
Really,
I would definitely make a fake PSN account for it. But I guess you want me to go ahead and hop into the drop.
I was trying to think if there's anything else I played, but I don't think so. It's been a little bit of a busy week. I can't think of anything I actually popped in, so. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So for those that don't know, the drop is this week's releasing games on PlayStation and all their systems. We have, first up on the list, Aces of Luftwaffe Squadron. Luftwaffe Squadron for PS4.
Luftwaffe? I don't know.
What?
It's a German thing. I know that, but who knows?
Earhart, Tales of the Broken Wings for PS4. Banner Saga 3 for PS4. Banner Saga Trilogy PS4. This is actually out physically. Bud Spencer and Terrence Hill Slap and Beans for PS4. There's a lot of, I'm not going to say bad. There's a lot of questionable looking games for this week. We have Candle, The Power of the Flame for PS4. We have Detached for PSVR. Game Tengoku Cruisin' Mix for PS4. Gnome's Garden 3, because there's apparently 3 of them for PS4. Hello Neighbor for PS4, available.
I didn't know that was getting a retail release.
Yeah, I'll say physically. We
and
have
digital.
My most excited game of the week that I'll probably end up buying here soon. Mega Man X Legacy Collection 1 and 2 for PS4, digital and retail. Gonna pick that up on the Switch. We have Narcosis for PS4. The Persistence for PSVR. Heard good things about that. We have Phil's Epic Phil-a-Pix Adventure for PS4 and PS Vita.
I saw that and I was like, I assume that this is like a picture put together type of game. I don't know. That's a cool art.
Yeah,
right
now
there.
Remothered Tormented Fathers for PS4 looks pretty cool.
What a name though, right?
Yeah, that's kind of cliche. Sea of Memories for PS4. Train SimWorld for PS4 available at retail stores. VR Robot for You Got It PSVR. And that's it up on the list. Very short list.
No, it's V-Robot, the like 13th sequel to iRobot.
Did you actually get that right? Is it actually 13 letters in between I and
No,
V?
I have no clue.
I was going to say, that doesn't sound right.
Please do not quote me on that. I have no clue what it is. So there's 26
There's
letters?
26 total.
So, I mean, that's the halfway mark. I don't think I's in the middle.
J-K-L-M-N-O-P-Q-R. No. You're close.
Anyway, let's see. Okay, I'm going to hop over to the news.
One away. And I did that. I may be tired. I actually may be wrong.
What's that?
I said you were one away.
Oh, well. We're just gonna say I was right for my own ego. Let's see. Whoa! Apparently my news doesn't want to refresh for me.
You changed the color, did you?
Nope.
Oh,
you're looking at.
Blue? Yeah. I'm looking at what?
You're looking at it from an angle, I guess, is what I was going to say, but maybe not.
No, I haven't.
Okay, here we are. We talked about it a couple of weeks back. Actually, we talked about it last week, I think, too. Gravity Rush 2 servers have closed down after 18 months of the game being out. And this is despite all the online petitions they had running. If you remember, they did one earlier, or technically at the end of the year last year when they were going to do it, or it may have been January. I can't remember. Anyway, it got pushed back to now, and from there, they have finally, even though they tried getting it back, they finally said, hey, we're done. It's still sad. I think it's just one of those things where when you look at it, I mean, it's a failed game, so whatever. I guess it is what it is in that sense, but it does look weak to have a game and try and close the servers within a year and then again in a year and a half. But at least they extended it once. That's good on them. I mean, they listened. They can't say that, the PR spin on that is, well, you can't say we didn't listen. We gave you one extension, so... PlayStation unveiled 2 special edition PS4s for Spider-Man, a PS4 and a Pro, both utilizing the same design, featuring the game's spider emblem in white sprawling across the top of a high-gloss amazing red. That's their color they're giving it. Console, a matching DualShock 4 is packed in, featuring the same red with white inputs. I shared this on Twitter. That controller is sexy.
The controller
I want to tell you right
like the
now,
console.
the thing I like about the controller is they did not put any extra decals on it. And I know that to an extent that means that, okay, well, it kind of looks plain because it looks like a red controller with white inputs. Well, yeah, that's what it is. But regardless of whether it's supposed to look special edition or not, it looks cool, and it's different from everything else they've done. The other cool thing about that is that, surprisingly, the controller supersedes the colors of the face buttons, and they're all red.
Right, and
I think is cool.
I like that a lot. I really don't like the system, and if I liked, honestly, this is gonna sound really weird and dorky, but like red doesn't go with anything in my room, so I'm not gonna get the controller even if I did. But like if they made like a light blue, there's a powder blue Xbox controller. If they made a PlayStation controller that was that color with that accents, my God.
Here's the thing: I know that those analog sticks are gonna be filthy. In a matter of time, but it looks so good.
I'd get some of those, what are they called, control freaks that don't really extend. They're just there to
cover,
protect it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I hate the way they feel because it adds that much more height still.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, they don't necessarily extend. Anyway, both of them come with a physical copy of the game, which is good. People were asking about that. Packed in, as well as a code for the City That Never Sleeps DLC. The Pro will retail for $3.99, so that's actually a pretty sweet deal. The Slim currently has only been announced for Europe, so it'll be interesting to see if we get it. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes we may not get it. Speaking of Spider-Man, Insomniac also revealed the final pre-order suit for the game, which is the Velocity suit, which has like a very almost... It's interesting because it looks almost like Iron Man, but then again, the Iron Spider suit has an Iron Man-ish look to it. But in a way, this almost looks more... It's like more hard angles and stuff in certain edges. I don't know. It looks cool, though. I mean, a little thick in some areas, but it's okay. Cool to see either way. I'm not a huge fan of pre-order bonuses in that sense, and I typically don't use them anyway, but hey, at least it looks cool. Capcom announced a collector's edition for Resident Evil 2 Remake that will be exclusive to GameStop. Kind of odd. I've been seeing a couple of collector's editions being exclusive lately, which is a very odd thing when it's not exclusive to Square, right? All of Square Enix's collector's editions are exclusive to their store, but it's their store.
Right.
So that makes sense. Partnering with somebody is just a little odd, and it comes off weird. And a lot of people have said that they're not going to get it because of the fact that it's with GameStop.
I mean, that is a complaint I have. I think that I'm not going to get it because I can't justify anymore spending $200 for a statue.
Yeah,
in
sure.
The game.
And I don't think it's enough to warrant the $200 price tag either. It has to be
a really high quality statue, and I am super excited for this game, but I'm not going to get the statue that's essentially $140. You get like a crate with it too that I saw.
Yeah, the boxing is cool. I'll give it that. So what it does is comes with a 12-inch statue of Leon in his police uniform, which is cool. It's on a round base. It has Leon Kennedy on it, which is actually a kind of nice touch. It comes with an art book, a digital soundtrack, a poster, which is like the Raccoon City Police Station when it was a museum, and like the blueprints of how they're changing it over to a police station, which is kind of interesting. And of course, it comes with the game with an extra DLC pack giving new outfits and a special weapon, and also the ability to have the original OST and where you can switch them through. I feel like that's something that should just be in the game anyway. That's a little bit of a man thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's something they should have given to all players, because that's actually a cool idea, right? Being able to switch between the two. I think from what I saw just a second ago, but didn't have time to hop in here, I think they're doing the same thing with Spyro. They're going to let you hop between the original mastered audio and the new remastered audio, which is
that's really
cool. For specifically the music, which is cool. That said, it looks like it's currently only available in North America for $199, like Saul said, but Capcom says that there are plans to give information about a European version as well. Maybe the same, just with a different exclusive retailer. Who knows? Next thing up, Stardew Valley's multiplayer update is getting closer. We've talked about it enough on this freaking podcast. With the PC version of the game receiving the update on August 1st and consoles soon to follow, we will see how long it takes us to get it, or even if it hits on PC on the 1st, that may get delayed again because it's been delayed over and over. But I get it. It's a little indie game trying to do that stuff on your own. Cool to see them still trying to do it after these. It's been out for more than almost 2 years, right?
Yeah, it's been out for quite a while now.
Yep. So next thing up, Smash-like platform fighter Brawlout has been given a date for PS4 with the game set to release on August 21st. They also announced that Yooka-Laylee, I guess Yuka and Laylee, if I've recalled the way the game was set up, are joining the roster as a guest appearance alongside Hyperlight Drifter's protagonist and Guacamele's Juan. Pre-orders are now open. If you are one of those people that like to do that, you get a 10% discount if you pre-order on the PlayStation Store currently. Let's see. Grand Theft Auto Online is receiving another update this week. The After Hours update brings back my boy Gay Tony from Grand Theft Auto 4 for players to co-run and operate a nightclub that will act as a front for a criminal enterprise. We're gonna get crazy on here. We're going to do some Breaking Bad stuff on here. The update hits the 24th, so that's the day after this goes live. And I think that this is kind of interesting to see because, of course, I've seen conversations on boards lately where people are talking about Red Dead being this big, massive thing. Well, while that's true, right?
It's not.
Some people are acting like it's going to completely supersede Grand Theft Auto, and it's just not.
Yeah.
And so it's heartening and sensible to see that Grand Theft Auto Online is still getting the update for what it is because, of course, there's a huge player base, and you have to keep them happy while you do Red Dead because Red Dead is going to do huge numbers. I don't anticipate it doing Grand Theft Auto numbers. I would imagine that by the time it's all said and done, it'll probably be somewhere around the half of what Grand Theft Auto 5 sold, which is more than enough.
That's still quite a lot of cash.
Yeah, so I mean, it's cool because some people were like, oh my God, I can't believe there's a new expansion for it with Red Dead right around the corner. But that's good. That's what they needed to do. From a business perspective, it makes more sense. And, like we say, businesses are businesses. They're in it for the money in the long run, and they just hope they can also make you enjoy it while they're doing so. It's kind of the loop they try and pull. Make something that you like, you pay for it, they keep supporting it, and then they make something else you like, hopefully. Let's see. For all my parental people on here, Paw Patrol on a Roll is putting Chase on the case on consoles later this year. For any of our parents out there, like I said, comes out in October, so you want to have a nice crime thriller featuring the pups of Paw Patrol. I don't actually know what kind of game it is. I just think that I have Kyrie constantly talks about Paw Patrol. It's ridiculous. So maybe Josh's kids will appreciate that if they're still in that age. I don't know how long. I don't know to what age Paw Patrol stays cool for kids. I'm not there yet. This is my first child. Only child, hopefully. WB have released a demo for Shadow of Mordor after releasing a huge update for the game. The update removes the marketplace from the game completely, streamlines the post-game Shadow Wars, adds Nazgul gear, which is pretty cool, Nazgul. Increases the game's level cap, adds new skins, and also expands the Nemesis system with the ability for you to turn off... what do they call them? I should have typed it in. The redemption kills or whatever, where your orcs could come in and do a kill to save you. Which is cool to see. I'm glad that they're putting... What should I say? I'm glad that it's getting done. I feel like it took a long time. When you see games like Star Wars Battlefront doing their thing, where it's like, okay, they're trying to be as quick as possible. It took them a long time, too. But they came out around similar times, and for this game to just now be getting a demo, mainly probably because they're trying to boost sales again. Now, I know that Blake said that he's been playing the game again. Looks like he's really enjoying it. It's a great game. I loved it. I didn't even think at launch that it had huge issues. It was more that it was falling victim by having a marketplace at all and having a little bit of stuff in there where it probably would have been better to not have it in there at all, where it was getting people... How should I say this? It was falling victim to people being in the outrage that existed around Star Wars Battlefront and all the other games that were having microtransaction sprees at the time. So with it hitting that way, it makes sense that they are doing this, but I wonder how much of a sales impact it had. I actually didn't look at sales numbers on the game, but I wonder if it didn't sell as good as the first.
Which is, I'm curious about too, because I know that there have been people that went back to it, and I actually know 3 or 4 people in real life that have. For me, I don't think I'm going to really.
Well, did you buy it at launch?
2?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, that's what I was saying.
No, I bought one on sale for $10, way 3 years or 2 years.
I love the
launch.
first game. I mean, I love the second game. To be fair, I'm not saying it in that sense, but they're both good games. But yeah, I've seen a bunch of people talking about going back to this or finally buying it since they're finally making the move they want, which is Cool. Bullet Hell Roguelike Enter the Gungeon, like Saul talked about, is receiving a massive new expansion for free. It's called the Advanced Gungeons and Dragons. Adds hundreds of new rooms, enemies, bosses, and a turbo mode that Saul needs to try out to test his skills. Need to do that on some streaming too, so we can see how well you'll do.
That would be fun.
Actually, that game is a really good streaming game, I feel like.
It's not a good Let's Play game because you're constantly having to redo stuff. Because I was thinking of that in my mind. It's like, you can't really Let's Play that because there's really no stopping point. It's eventually you're just going to die over and over again, and then you're going to stop, and that's it, or you're going to beat the game, and that could take hours.
It'd be a one-off Let's Play,
Yeah.
So, I got you. And that would be maybe even a Let's Play that you'd actually want to go in and edit together. To kind of, that way it was, you'd show, well, here's frustration of what it is. But let's see. PlayStation had sign-ups available for the beta for update 6.0. Currently, and this is kind of odd because I want to say last time they did a beta, they actually did it to where they had some information about the update before the beta enrollment, and then they came back and we're like, okay, well, now we're going to do beta enrollment. You already know a little bit about what it is. Do you want to be participant? But they already did the things for that. We don't know anything about the update currently. Maybe we'll know before they choose who they want to be in it. And hopefully you got in before enrollment closed. It was pretty quickly closed. Next up, and this is pretty big and pretty cool, and I think it signs potentially something great, but Horizon Zero Dawn developer Guerrilla is expanding and moving into a new 5-floor office. The developers look to expand from its current 250 employees, or somewhere around there, to around 400, which might be indicative of growing into a 2-team developer, which would be awesome. This sounds reinforced, and this is part of why I think this, by director Herman Hulse saying that we have worked, and this is quote, we have worked at Horizon for 6.5 years, which is exceptional. We want to release games in the 2 or 3 years, both new titles and games based on existing titles, end quote. To me, that sounds like potentially another new IP with the way he's wording it.
Yeah.
But that sounds crazy because, well, I'm not going to say it sounds crazy. Maybe it would be something for PS5, but it sounds like, or at least I constantly thought, right, do a second team, let there be a second team, do Horizon, which is going to be an obligatory game, right? And then do a Killzone game to act as a good, I wouldn't even do that. But anyway.
Okay. I was thinking it looks better at least a little bit.
But I would say that, with the way that they pulled off Horizon, obviously great, but 6.5 years is a long time to be working on a game. Now, of course, it was, the game's been out for over a year now. So they're talking about throughout all the expansion and everything that they did. But when you think about that, 6 years of game development on a game is a long time. The great thing about a second team, but also potentially the bad thing, is that you can bounce the game between the two, so you don't get fatigue on the IP between the teams. That way, they're not constantly working on the same game. You'd be able to kind of interweave out. But it almost sounds like instead of doing what I thought they would do, which was have a Killzone team. So because the reason I say that I expect a Killzone team is right now, Sony doesn't have, and maybe they don't need, I'm not saying that they absolutely do, but I think it would be cool for them to have some kind of first-person shooter representation on their exclusives catalog like they used to during the PS3 days.
Yeah, I'm not going to say
they had a number of them. I'm not saying it's necessary.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's not required, but it would be nice to have.
But here's the thing, right? It's not required, but what are all their games currently? It's that, and now
kind of linear story games for the most part. They need something to change it up.
third-person games. Now, that's fine. It can be a linear first-person game. It's just that having that change gives your exclusive catalog a little bit more of a feeling, and again, it gives you that much more of a chance of someone going, oh, well, I don't want a PlayStation 4 because they don't have a lot of first-person shooter exclusives that I would really like, and I'd be missing out on that feeling if I didn't go with Microsoft, right? Whereas if you're somebody who loves third-person games like me, then of course this is great. But it's still one of those things where even I eventually am like, okay, well, I want a change of pace and I would like to play a first-person game. It's actually why I enjoy playing Call of Duty Black Ops 3. Because I was like, well, if nothing else, it's just a change of pace from what I've been playing. Yeah. So I think it would be cool to see them do that. But it also sounds like there's a chance that they want to work on another new IP alongside Horizon. Who knows?
I would be all for it because that's one of the things for me. That's why it's so fun to go back to Rocket League right now. And not only that, but why I've been playing a lot of Rainbow is because it's a really, really good, pretty much relaxation kind of thing. It's like I'm done playing the story. I'm done absorbing all this. I'm gonna turn on a podcast. I'm gonna play Rainbow. I'm gonna turn on a podcast and play Rocket League, and I think it works out really really well.
So where are you getting at that with the gorilla thing? Out of curiosity,
if they do make a first person shooter of any kind, and they have maybe even a multiplayer for it, or even just
then you can get lost in a new multiplayer. While
yeah, most first person shooters lend themselves to being perfectly fine to play. While you are listening to a podcast, or not a lot of first-person shooters are really story-heavy.
Well, now here's my other side of that, right? The other reason I think it may be a first-person shooter and potentially Killzone, but maybe even a new IP, is that there was some interviews about last month where Shu talked about how he was loving the fact that the first parties were being so embraced in such a great light, and that they were doing so well, but that he wished that they had a better online aspect to their games. Like all of their games, they don't really have. And now, of course, they're the ones backing this single-player stories forever, right? Well, yeah, of course, and they have more than enough single-player games to have a couple of great online games. Now, of course, you have things like Gran Turismo, which are online and do well. Not in the same extent as I would consider the Microsoft games to be, and, of course, other third-party games. Maybe even some Nintendo when you think about the potential competitive scene for things like Smash and Squid Game. Yeah, Splatoon.
Yeah, Splatoon still has a crazy...
and that's what I mean. So, and I know that Splatoon had like a really blown up competitive scene, and I know that was a big reason that they were kind of waiting, it looked like, on Splatoon 2 to come out before they started really pushing all their online stuff, because they knew that was the game that was going to carry their online services. So when you think like that, I mean... To me, it seems like, why not do a first-person shooter that can have a really, hopefully well-done online component that you can really push on. Now, I do think also The Last of Us had great online, and actually the online had quite a bit of legs, so The Last of Us 2 would be a game that would kind of exist in that space of having a really online-heavy back end that they could kind of pull into.
I didn't know this, but because I didn't really play the first one in terms of multiplayer, but like apparently the first one had a lot of pay-to-win stuff in it.
Yeah.
I
remember that being
crazy to me.
I remember that being a big deal too. Now I played a lot of it. I never bought anything, so it's not like I know exactly what it was. But I remember that being a common complaint.
Yeah, that's weird. You wouldn't expect that from Naughty Dog, which I'm hoping if they put multiplayer in 2, which I would assume so.
No, they've already talked about it. It will be in there. Okay. They have not talked about what it's going to be. So
gotcha.
Gotcha. I mean, Uncharted 4's multiplayer did well for them too. So. I mean, it makes sense that they would keep going that route. Let's see. Absolver, free on PlayStation Plus currently. So this news may entice you into downloading it if it wasn't something that you were thinking about downloading already, or reinstalling it if it's something you've already had before. But it's receiving a free expansion similar to the... Man, what's crazy with all these free expansions? It's kind of odd. But the expansion is called Downfall. It comes out this September. The update will add more to the campaign, a new fighting style called Phase In, which is a lot of people are excited for because... from what I heard from many people, and then of course when I've been playing the game, I saw the Drunken Monkey fighting style was
stagger style.
Yeah. So I mean, it was that thing where it was like everybody was doing that, and it got overwhelmed. And Jonathan talked about it in the post game for sure. Like when you're just doing PvP.
In the original release, yes, but it was really easy to counter. It just made the game more stale.
Yeah, sure, because we got bored of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what people were talking about is they've seen enough Drunken Monkey and all this to tie them over for years to come. So hopefully this new thing will be something that will break that up a little bit. Let's see. It adds school challenges, which are 1v1 combat trials for players who have reached a disciple rank in the game, and new equipment that's swords, armor gear. There's actually some pretty sweet looking new armor. And I really, I like that game. I told Josh I need to come back to it. I think I'm aiming for... God, I can't remember what I said. If it was today, I'm sorry, Josh. Or not Josh, I'm sorry, Richard. I told you I was going to come back and play it. I have to figure that out. Grandpa's gotten put in a hospice and a lot of things changed. So sorry about that in case today was the day, but I think it was next week. So we will figure that out.
Considering this airs on Monday. Unless you're talking about Monday specifically.
Well, no, I originally talked to him on Twitter about it.
About Saturday or Monday?
About playing some point in time. I don't know if it was
I'll say
if
it's Saturday, he's going to be about 3 days too late almost.
Yep. So
technically
I'll just say,
depending on how you look at the world.
Sorry now. I'm getting it out there. Next up, South Park, The Fractured But Whole is receiving its Bring the Crunch DLC on July 31st, bringing my favorite, Mint-Berry Crunch, into the mix. The DLC adds a new story campaign with the boys at a summer camp at Lake Titicaca when suddenly camp counselors start going missing. The DLC will be $11.99. So that's pretty cool. I mean, July 31st, that's coming up quick. It almost makes me wish I wouldn't have sold the game because I did. because that actually sounds like it may be mildly fun. I'm not normally one to go back for DLC. I'm trying to see that in myself and go back to games that I really loved. And even though I didn't think the Fractured But Whole was quite as magical and I don't know, there's something about the Stick of Truth that just stuck with me more than this game, but it was still a great game and I loved it. I had that conversation with someone the other day. Lastly, in a almost poetic turn of events, Nathan Fillion did not return to record his lines for Destiny 2's upcoming The Forsaken DLC or expansion. Nolan North instead took up the role that will see Cade 6 killed off for good. Apparently been a big deal about what they're trying to show off with the Forsaken stuff, which is interesting. And the reason I say it's almost poetic is that what do we see? We see the inverse happening with Nathan Fillion taking on doing the performance for a character that Nolan North is normally known for in Nathan Drake when they did the short, what do you want to call it? I guess a short movie that they did on YouTube that came out that we talked about in last week's was going to be coming. That was fantastic, first of all, really good. So it's just one of those weird things where it's the timing's very odd on this, but coming out that way is interesting. What I think is I feel like Nolan North can get close enough to Nathan Fillion where I don't care. And it's not noticeable. That's if I even play it. I'm not committed to playing it yet. Yeah. But, if you go back, it's one of those things where it's like, how weird is that going to be? Definitely with Ghost still being Nolan North, So.
Wait a second here. Hold on. I'm sorry. Our
Saul's
Discord chat.
Disengaged on that. He's disengaged on this Discord chat.
I want to give a shout out to our boy Shoko/Shariko, who finally got a platinum in Monster Hunter World. 840 hours.
I thought it was 810.
No, there's a 30. There's a 30,
oh yeah, 31 above it. You're right. As a total, God, man, that is ridiculous.
And then my boy Casey, there I go again. Corey said that he got the platinum for Final Fantasy 14 in less than 100 hours. I'm like, wait.
Good for him.
I'm like, I think you're mixing up 15, my boy. But I guess we'll move into reader mail since that's all said and done. Speaking about Nathan Fillion, we do have two questions. I'm going to go ahead and interlope into one question because they're fairly similar, but there's some twists. We have Shanwa Neo wanting to know, or say, I'm sure this goes without question, but I hope you share your hopes and dreams on the idea of an Uncharted movie starring Nathan Fillion. Now, to go on with this, because these two questions, like I said, are fairly similar, Stefan says, it goes without saying that we all want Nathan Fillion to play Drake, but what are your thoughts on the other actors cast in the film? Lang is a great actor, but did he feel like Sully to you? But because as Elena's actor, I was not convinced. What other actors do you want? So I thought this was interesting because I think we can have both agreed that the Uncharted short was absolutely amazing. Nathan Fillion nailed Nathan Drake to it. We said that for years now. Like I think that,
dude, I have said that literally since I've watched Firefly and then played. When I watched Firefly, and I guess to some extent, Dr. Horrible's sing along because he has that snarky, really sarcastic attitude in both of those, and a lot of the times. But my thing is, when you see both of those, right? As soon as I saw, and then of course his facial features and everything about him, but I was like, and now this is one of those rare times, right, where there just happens to be a real life actor who not only looks like the character from the game, but also has done countless roles where we know that his natural personality lends himself well to the character at hand.
Yeah.
Now that's a rare thing that doesn't normally happen that easily. So there's a couple things I want to say about that because make sure I'm hearing the questions right. He's saying
sure. So Sean was wanting to know just our general overall thoughts and dreams of the idea of an Uncharted movie starring him, and then Stefan wants to know who we would did we like the actors that played the characters represented in the short movie and who we would choose other than them. So pretty much very similar in the same plane of a question.
So where I want to go with that, because I think it's a great question, but it's a question that has a lot of wiggle room in my mind and it'll probably change constantly and I don't even have a real answer right now. And the reason is that, okay, like I said, Nathan Fillion being this so oddly perfect casting, right? Oh, Gore. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, okay.
I'm trying to think of an actress.
Trying to find your actor? Okay,
there we go.
Who is this for?
Elena.
Really?
You don't think that looks somewhat like Elena?
Am I seeing this?
You're seeing it like a
dark hair? I don't know. Maybe it's just the blonde that's not hitting me. I need to see the blondness of it. But, okay. I'd be okay with it. I'd be okay with it.
I can't think of her name.
But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing about it. like we said, there's two things about this. The fact that he was in such an interesting position to play this role and be perfect at it is rare. It's never going to happen, or it's not going to happen commonly or often. You're just not going to get that lucky.
Sony sometimes makes bad movie decisions.
Well, yeah, but I mean, let's take away from a movie. Let's just talk about what happened here, right? So he's saying that Lang was there as Sully. Here's the thing.
He wasn't bad.
He wasn't bad.
Burt Reynolds would have been better.
Here's the problem. Well, no, the problem with it specifically is that because games have crossed, definitely Uncharted. Uncharted is one of the forefront games that really pushed the technological and graphical envelope to try and present the most realistic characters you can, right? And me spending so much time with them across not only one Uncharted, but 5 Uncharteds, if you really think about it, with the way everything goes. When you think about that, man, oh, Lord.
I'm trying to do Roman numerals in my head.
But when you think about that, I've had 5 Uncharted games specifically with Nate and Sully, and Elena in 4 of them. So, when you're going over that,
3 of them, right? Or was she in?
No, she's not in Golden Abyss, and there's 4 Uncharted games. So,
okay, I guess that makes sense.
But my point being,
I thought you were tacking on Lost Legacy.
Yeah, when you spend that much time across these characters that already look photorealistic to you and continue to push to the point where definitely in Uncharted 4. I felt like I was looking at the real people.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. So,
and so you can't be replaced.
You get to this point where it's almost like it's almost like a live action movie. An Uncharted movie is going to happen.
Of course.
At least if Sony, unless something crazy happens, Sony will continue to try and do this Uncharted movie until it just, I can't think of an out. There's been so many times that it should have fallen apart and they just rewrite the script and cast a new actor. And, at one point in time, Mark Wahlberg, no.
See, dude, this is what I'm talking about with Sony and some of their movie decisions.
But I'm with you. But see, it's one of those things
Even Tom Holland.
So this is, like I said, this is a special case where they have a perfect, and now if from a story perspective, right, we're talking about what we want to see in the story from it. I think that following what Uncharted 4 was aiming for and going for this older Nate who he's having to deal with the fact that this is the life he's loved and done for so long, but he's also at the point in his life where he should be turning away from it because he's getting too old to the point where it's hard for him to do some of these things. I think that's a great play. 4 did that really well in a certain number of areas and then kind of took focus away from it in ways that I wish that they wouldn't have. The reason I think it's such a great fit is that there's something cool about the dynamic of having someone who's always been able to do all these crazy things and escape death so many times, but the older and older he gets and the worse he gets at being able to adapt and manipulate and adapt to the situations at hand and do the physical and mental maneuvers that have to happen to keep himself alive in these events.
They get stressful.
It starts, the real fear of death can start to come. Now that somewhat goes away from what Uncharted started as, but 4 got itself there to an extent, and they were really trying to do that. They did that wordplay, and the whole thing, the whole game, definitely before it came out, is Thieves' End. Is Drake going to die in this game? And it's one of those crazy things where playing off of that is a really cool way to get people more emotionally invested because you're like, oh man, there's something weighty here. The Indiana Jones movies, that he's not going to die, and now the movies are meant to be, the games were meant to be kind of a parallel and an analog to the Indiana Jones, but in a game form. So coming back over into a movie form, I actually don't feel like they should go with that style where it's, of course, no one's going to actually die. They're always going to get out of it. Having some real sense of weight behind it would be really cool. But with the actors, it gets to the point where I can't think of anyone other than, I can't think of his name, Richard McGonigal or something, whatever, is the guy who plays Sully. I could be way off on the name on that. If I am, just chastise me online. It doesn't matter.
Are you talking about the short that just came out?
No, the real Sully.
Oh, okay. I'm like, what? See, I think, to answer your question, I think Rosamund Pike would be a good Elena. And I think
Richard McGonigal. So I was right on the name for the actual person who does the motion capture.
And
actor.
tell me, Burt Reynolds couldn't replace him in live action.
Well, here's my thing, right? There's a voice that goes along with this character,
exactly,
and even Lang did the best he could. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, if they made that into a full miniseries or whatever, where it was just episode by episode, or into a movie, I would be happy with it. It's not necessarily what I think is maybe the prime casting. He felt like a good enough Sully. I will agree that Elena just didn't feel right. There was she lacked this charisma that I feel like Elena normally has. So, I'll say that on that front, I do feel like another Elena could be cast. But like I said, if they move forward with exactly what they have now, I would be perfectly fine with it. I actually really hope that this somehow gets some kind of a mini series off the ground.
I hope it does what Deadpool does, and it starts.
Well, there's that, but I also think that Uncharted works more not as a movie, but as a series, right? Because the games are normally in the 12 to 15 hour length thing. And if you do me a season of a show where you can really take this story arc and really have fun with it,
I think
the short is like what, 15 to 20 minutes long, somewhere in that
it's 21 minutes
area.
long.
So if it's 20 minutes long, let's just say it is. Think about even 10 episodes of that. You know, it's easier to set things up and try and call back. I mean, but you could do that across 12 episodes and you could do a more satisfying arc. But this also comes back to a bias I've said where I actually prefer long form TV over movies. I feel like movies would have to try and condense to the point where you would lose something intrinsic.
The budget is what you get there. You get a little bit lesser. I say a little bit. Depending on the series, you get a lot less quality.
In terms of what,
show.
a series?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but if Sony really wanted to step behind it, they could do what A&E or whoever.
I will eat my shoe.
Or what's not A&E? What is it? AMC? Is that the people who did
Walking Dead and Breaking Bad?
Breaking Bad was great.
Now, I will say, though, there's not a lot of partial effects to Breaking Bad, which they could do with Uncharted.
Yeah, you don't have to do much with Uncharted.
Yeah, you could do, explosions every now and then, but you see all of the Indiana Jones movies, which heavily inspired Uncharted to begin with, they worked fine as movies. But I know Uncharted's a little bit different.
They do, but again, they're shorter, and I think that I don't know. I think there's an argument both ways. I just think that a series would do better. But that's a great question and a very fun question. I mean, if you have not watched that short yet, go watch it. It's amazing. Nathan Fillion's great, even with the age he has. He really embodies Drake in every way I wanted him to.
Yeah, we've been saying that for years now about how good he would be. 14 minutes long. I was off on the 21-minute mark. I thought for some reason it was longer.
I thought 15, but
yeah. So our last question of the day, thank you guys for answering that, is from Richard Rivera, and he wants to know what games make us nauseous. I think we've talked about this briefly before, and I don't think Brett had one, right?
Never have.
See,
but Blaze, just for quick story time, Blaze had hell, and I didn't, but maybe I will with a new one. Who knows? But Blaze had hell with two games in particular. One was Mirror's Edge on PlayStation 3.
Really?
Something about the way that the game utilized motion blur across its thing and the first-person perspective and a real shaky camera messed with him. And he wanted to enjoy the game and just couldn't. Ended up having to return it because of that. And then the second game was Talos Principle, actually. And I think that some of that came from the fact that he was playing it on his PC and he didn't want to use a frame limiter. So instead of locking it at 30 or 60, which probably would have gave him a much more fluid experience, he was having from 144 to 80 frames per second changes. So
the screen tearing, though.
Well, aside from screen tearing, he mentioned specifically. Make it comfortable. He mentioned specifically as the fact that the game felt almost too quick and too fluid, which is something I actually think. And I think to an extent you get that from the sense that I think it came from the fact that he was changing frames, so he didn't have a real steady frame rate. So even though he couldn't visually tell what it was, I think it was something about his brain being the sense
like
of
a roller coaster.
The sense of time of what's going on to what you're doing and how that's changing because of the frame rate.
That's why
is making it feel unfluid.
Right. VSync Master Race. That's why all games should include a frame rate cap, and I can cap that at 60.
And now, of course, options. And the game has the option. Blaze was just trying to be Mr. Super PC and be like, look, my computer could do 236 frames per second.
If I could do 144 hertz or whatever, then yeah. But it's locked there. It's not going to fluctuate, or I'm not going to run it there. For me, though, I think I mentioned this before, is that PlayStation All-Stars made me had massive motion sickness, and I don't know what it was.
PlayStation All-Star, the Smash game?
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I thought I've told you that before, but I guess not.
Maybe you did, and I've just forgotten.
But yeah, that game gave me motion sickness, and then VR rigs gave me motion sickness.
Okay, yeah, but that makes sense.
And it wasn't even really motion sickness; it was stomach dropping, which in turn made me nauseous.
Yeah, of course, but it was that feeling of I should be moving, and I'm not moving.
Yeah, it was that elevator feeling, but you're not.
Now I will say this:
moving.
There is something about that that's oh man, VR is a little serious. Because even though I know that you have your own thoughts about VR, and we've talked about those episodes past, I do think that to an extent that's an endorsement in the fact that it's an undeniable endorsement in the fact that VR, when done right, can really have a really oddly immersive effect on your body.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So,
that's why what was it called? The Until Dawn VR game.
Oh yeah, Rush of Blood.
Yeah, that the roller coaster scene on that was kind of cool because when you would go down real quick on the roller coaster, even though it wasn't like a massive roller coaster, your stomach kind of rolled over a little bit.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool.
Sure, yeah, sure.
But I guess we'll move on to the main topic of this episode, in which keeping games secret. This week has been really slow on news, and there's been a couple websites that have done articles on this with Hideo Kojima, and I'm going to pull off my source from Gamer Rant just because that's one of the ones that I've gotten reliable information from in the past. But basically, he goes on into an interview about why he's keeping the game secret, and to quote him, he says that it's like a math problem where knowing the answer is not that important. The important thing is the process of getting the answer. And then, of course, he goes on to say even further in the interview that...
I'm going to look at this because
I don't want to take away the most part of fun from players, which is, of course, talking about the lead up to the game and playing the game itself, instead of finding out about too much of it in itself in promotional material and in marketing. And I'll link this article in the description below when I do timestamps on Monday for you guys. It's a really good article, and Kojima hit some pretty good spots in there in which there is a point in which marketing and even just the general livelihood of the games we live in now, with games being revealed 2-3 years before the release date, we just see way too much of a game before it comes out. And I think that depending on the type of game, you can get away with it like Hideo does. He gets away with a lot of stuff, and I am saying that in the nicest way possible because I'm a huge Hideo Kojima fanboy. But that's one of the things that I think works really, really well for Until Dawn. We've seen it now. We just need a release date. And I could care less at how we would get a release date.
Until Dawn.
Did I say Until Dawn? Death Stranding. I got that rush of blood in my head right now from the what we're talking about.
I will say this because so it's funny that you bring up Until Dawn, because this is actually one of those weird examples of where Until Dawn surprised people, because the game did not get shown that much. No. And it was one of those things where it was very...
It got remade.
It got really loosely... It didn't really get a lot of time from them. I think it was at Gamescom back in 2012 or 13, I guess it was. Maybe even 14. But that was like when the re-announcement happened from it being a Move PS3 title and now coming over to be a traditional PS4 game. And what made it so interesting in talking about what he's talking about here, right, is that because the game did not get a lot of media time, and because Sony didn't have this big marketing push behind it, a lot of people didn't see it or know anything about it. So when you get the game and you don't have any idea of what the potential could be, you kind of just buy it on a whim and you play it. When it ends up being great, there's like that much more of an effect on it, because it's like, well, I didn't even expect this. Now, Kojima's a little different.
Yeah, Kojima's a lot different.
Because Kojima has an expectation behind him, right?
He does.
And that also sparks more conversation, because when someone with as much expectation behind him doesn't release information to a big extent, it's like, whoa, what's going on? Because what I'll say is that he already did this to an extent, right? PT came out, and he wanted PT to be this big thing where people had to play it and all work together in order... Stupid fly. Anyway, they had to play it and work together online to get all these things out so they could figure out what it was, which gave them an idea of Silent Hills. Well, Silent Hills is still going to be a reboot and this big change, and there was no way to know how the game was going to play. So there was mystery behind it while still knowing, okay, this is going to be a horror game where the main aspect is going to be moving around between things.
And we didn't know how it was going to be played either. People were saying that it's going to be first person.
Some people were saying it was going back to a third person. Yeah. So yeah, that's my point, is that he's had a long history of doing this, right? And now I will say openly, I've been one to criticize the fact that he's given no real idea of what the game's going to be. And the only reason I say that is it's a catch-22, right? Whenever you have a game like Death Stranding,
you don't know enough about it.
You have two sides, right? You have Kojima attached to it, which automatically means the game is going to have some level of success just from name recognition alone.
Yep, I fully agree.
Now, that's one of those things. Now, I am curious to see how many people end up not even liking the game, and they only get it because Kojima's name's attached to it. I'm not saying there's going to be a big amount, but there's a potential for there to be people who go into the game, and it's so different than what he's done in the past, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't, I don't know, where it has the chance of them getting it being so different, and then them being like, oh, this isn't what I wanted from him, nor do I really enjoy this, and it having a negative effect there. But at the same time, there is a surprise to that, right? They get to pop it in and go, I don't know, because when I say there's two sides, it's like there's the expectation that comes with Kojima, but there's also the complete lack of expectation that should be there because we don't know anything about the game.
Right.
So it's like you go into it and people are going to be disappointed that they didn't like a Kojima game, but at the same time they're not going to be disappointed because they didn't really know what they were signing up for in the first place.
I think from what we've got,
and that's if they keep it as tight-lipped as they've been, which it sounds like they're going.
There's quite a lot of information just derived from the trailers we've gotten that pretty much have an idea of what we're doing. I'm sure there's going to be one last trailer to give you a taste of actual gameplay so you know what you're going to get in for. But other than that, I absolutely love the fact of how well hidden the story is, because we have games like God of War in which I think we basically had to stay radars down for God of War for a while because just on YouTube you'd see spoilers and thumbnails and such.
Now, and to be fair, and that's talking about somewhat different things, right? So
I was relating it to not wanting to find out more about a game. I don't know what my laptop just did.
Yeah,
I was relating it to not wanting to find out more about a game versus being forced to find out about a game unexpectedly.
Yeah,
and
so you're talking about the fact that in God of War, now what I'm just trying to figure out with God of War, are you talking about how post God of War,
I'm talking about how with the release of God of War, you pretty much were like, if you weren't careful enough, like Ryan doing, not buzzwords, filters on Twitter to filter out words. There's an element of being forced to see this information, and then there's an element of marketing the too much information. And I think that there's a weird side to both of them. But on the marketing
now,
side,
Sony did great on the marketing on God of War. That's where I want to say
that's my parallel.
Yeah, they actually did a great job on that, because there was a lot of things about God of War that you did. Everything they showed in the promotional stuff was like from the first fourth of the game.
Right, and that's
very interesting way to do it while also selling what the game is going to be.
That's the parallel I'm making, is in which there's a companies can easily be the opposite side of the coin, which forces you to know too much about the game instead of the community. The fly is just attacking us right now. But like Days Gone, I feel like we've seen a lot of Days Gone. I don't want to see anymore. I do not care to see anymore. I don't care to see the little 30-minute segment they did on IGN or GameSpot or Game Informer, wherever they did
IGN.
A couple of weeks ago.
Oh, it was Game Informer. You're right. I'm sorry. It was Game Informer.
But I think that's kind of a weird marketing culture we live in right now, in which...
Well, it's been a thing this year, right? I mean...
No, it's been a thing for like past 2 years.
Well, yeah, but I mean, definitely this year we've seen Game Informer have 1 month coverage on a number of games. And actually a lot of them have been Sony games, weirdly enough.
Which is good for the people that want it. I just think that for... phone's falling out of my pocket. For the people that want it, that's fine and everything, but then the people who want it often cannot or do it on purpose. They'll just go and spoil what they saw and all that stuff. And I know that some people who try to stay out of the dark, they try to stay pitch black. And like, but some people didn't want to know.
Well, you have to be vigilant.
Creation.
Yeah, you have to be vigilant, and it's kind of interesting.
Depending on the game, like Hellblade, for me, I tried to stay as dark as I could. I didn't want to watch any of the developer diaries. I wanted to stay 100%. And I was pleasantly surprised at the experience of the game.
Here's what's crazy about that. I watched the developer diaries.
Didn't really change the experience. And I'm not willing to take the risk.
Yeah, and I was surprised that it didn't change the experience.
I'm not willing to take that risk at all.
But the developer diaries covered like a 2-year period, so they were very odd to sit there and watch.
And I'm trying to think. There's been a lot of games now we've just seen too much of. Like, honestly, Spider-Man, they could have kept the old Sinister Six thing a little quiet, and I think that would have been fine.
I think that Marvel is partially responsible.
No, yeah, Marvel is definitely responsible for that because of the promotion Marvel always does.
Now, here's the other side, though, right? It's not always. I mean, and of course, the people have to say something about it, but then you also have a mixture of things, right? You also have people, and this is where it kind of gets into like I feel two different ways about it, because to an extent, I feel like Jason Schreier, who's known for coming out and talking about what games are and what to expect from them before they even are announced, and leaking games and leaking them in full extent.
That's
to an extent that kind of ruins, right? There would have been, if he would not have said anything about Fallout 76.
Fallout 4.
Well, Fallout 4 as well, but Fallout 76 more recently and more notably in the fact that
his inside information.
He was
stuff.
like, well, it's an online game. And it's going to be online, and don't expect it to be what you've seen in the past. And the thing is it gave people time to get mad about that without even seeing what Bethesda had out about it. And it also took away from the people who don't care about the fact that it's online. It took away that hit that would have happened if all this time they were like Fallout 76 from the Twitch stream that Bethesda did, and then on E3 they were like, oh yeah, it's all online, and here's how it works, and here's how it does this. And they go, holy crap, what? That punch was gone.
Right.
Because two things. Jason did his job as a reporter realistically and got some information and reported on it, right? There's real journalism to be said about that, and that's an interesting thing to do. But the flip side of that is that not only did he spoil something for the people who read him, what happens the rest of the internet and the rest of the way that gaming media works means that everybody took that information, made their own article, referenced his article, and then went on about it. So what happens within a matter of 3 to 4 hours?
Everybody knows.
The entirety of the internet.
And that's what I was saying earlier is that you take, some people may be trying to stay quiet on Days Gone or whatever. Then there are people going to watch the trailer and then just casually bring it up on the internet. And that's where it gets ruined. And I think that's where I wouldn't go as far and say that a lot of these marketing companies that help them with the material they put out with and advise them, I think some of them should be held accountable in senses of ruining games. There's not, and like I said, there's nothing you can really do about that. Like, you can't sue them. Oh, they spoiled Death Stranding ending for me. Like, the only thing you could do is support or not support them with your wallet. Like, don't go to their website and give them clicks or ad views and stuff like that. Because right now, these past 3 years, I'd go ahead and say, 3 years back, 2015, with what we've seen so far and what hasn't came out yet, we're just seeing the same games and we're seeing too much of them. And
but Death Stranding's in that to an extent. We're seeing the same game and we're seeing too much of it, and that's what I think is interesting about Death Stranding is that it's somewhere in between. We're seeing too much of it, but not enough of it at the same time. We've seen the game more times than we should have, in my opinion, but we still don't know anything about the game.
And that's what's cool about it, in my opinion, is that unique about it.
It is unique because most people would not go this route,
right?
But he's afforded that because he's Kojima, so I was getting at in the middle of it.
Yeah, Kojima gets away with a lot of things. And
there is something about that. The other part is, like I say, so games like God of War. What I thought you were talking about earlier was that God of War actually broke street date in a couple areas, or people actually got their hands on the game early and were posting stuff. And I know a number of people who accidentally stumbled across it thinking it was actual promotional material, which obviously promotional material is normally not going to aim to spoil.
No.
So they thought that, I can watch it, and then they got spoiled.
Exactly.
And there's...
Or those assholes on YouTube who put the thumbnails as the spoiler.
Oh, God.
Like, I promise you.
That game, and because that scene was so important to me, I have been so mad and have talked to so many people. Seth, Saul's brother, is just now getting around to playing God of War.
Oh, no.
All right? And I kept telling him, I was like, there's something big that's coming up, but I don't want to tell you, and I don't know if you've already gotten it spoiled for you. And he was like, I don't know. So he finally got there today, and he texted me, and he goes, is it this? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, oh my God. And I was like, I didn't know if you had it spoiled for you. He's like, I didn't.
Good.
I was like, thank God. Because you know how many places I have seen that I'm like, if Seth would have scrolled past it and took 2 seconds to look at, that part would have been ruined.
No, dude, I'm telling you, I almost had the game ruined for me because I was literally watching a podcast on YouTube, not related to games at all. And then one of the thumbnails in the related bar was the last boss. Now, it was the first form of the last boss, if you think about what I'm saying, of the big thing.
Yeah, I got you.
And I was like, what game is that? Oh, no. Scroll back. And, like, I remember I was like, now I sit there and I thought in my head of, like, what was that? Like, what did I see? And I'm trying to piece together in my head of, like, anytime I see something similar to that in a game, I'm like, okay, this is it. Until the end, and I'm like, this is it. Okay, I was still surprised. I wasn't spoiled, really. But I will say, though, that, like, the way some games are doing, I know they are ruining it for some people. And not always in terms of spoilers, more so in terms of fun. Because now we know that Days Gone is a motorcycle riding game in which you're a single-player open-world map, and then you go around and you can craft all kinds of cool things and kill hordes and hordes of zombies. Keep some of that secret. Like, I honestly don't think they should have shut off the hordes. The hordes are really, really cool in my opinion because no zombie game does it like that. They should have saved that. They should have saved that for when you're playing and you're like, oh, there's 3 or 4 zombies. Oh, here's like 6, 8, no, 10, 12. What is going on? And they're chasing you. It would have been a shock factor.
So I agree, but here's where I'm going to have to play devil's advocate, right?
Right.
The one thing specifically about exclusives is that, and we've said this in a number of different ways about different things. It's funny that we keep coming back to it, but the devil's advocate part you have to play here is that these are exclusives. Exclusives are made primarily because, yes, they have the potential to make the company who make them money, which is always a good thing when that does happen. But more often than not, they're made to showcase the hardware and make you want to buy their hardware so they get you in on their ecosystem.
Oh, no, I understand.
So here's the problem,
fully.
right?
They want to show off how cool the game is.
You want to show it off. when it comes to exclusives, you have to ride a weird thin line about showing off enough that would get people interested and maybe get people who previously hadn't owned a PlayStation to buy this, or who have previously ducked out of the PlayStation ecosystem, maybe potentially pull them back in.
I don't think exclusive like Days Gone is going to do it for people though. I still think there's a big zombie
maybe not, but it's still
on.
an exclusive, and you have to run this. You have to run this weird thing in your head of how much risk do I want to put about putting too much out there and giving people no surprise when they play the game. Which, of course, the story will still be a surprise, but there is something to be said about mechanical surprises.
Right.
You know, and that's like we talk about God of War, right? That was what made God of War so cool. I didn't think that
was
from what
happen.
they showed me, well, not even that. I mean, mechanically, in a lot of ways, I didn't think the game was going to be that deep.
Yeah.
And it became interesting
another
to see.
good example is Last of Us 2. With the Ellie kiss scene, and I don't think that's a spoiler because that's been on E3 for the past 2 months now, or almost 2 months.
I wouldn't consider that a spoiler. It is what it is.
But like that would have been much more of an emotional and better experiencing cutscene to see in the game, I think, instead of in the trailer. And I think that I know why they kind of put that in the trailer, just to kind of show you that she does have somebody she loves and
that she cares about. And what's interesting is that it
can be taken away.
shows that she's grown to having someone else outside of just Joel.
Right. And I do think though that like that would have been a better kind of not reveal moment, but more of a kind of like vibe in the game of like, oh, is that a girlfriend? Like, who is that? Like, that's not her sister, is it? Well, who is this? It's the girl from the trailer? No.
Now, here's what I think.
She ain't buff. Who's that?
Here's what I'll say about that in particular, right? The way that I think I would have approached that in terms of, and this has nothing to do, because, everybody's up in arms about the stupid kiss scene. Doesn't matter to me personally.
Right,
whatever.
Yeah,
if it matters to you for whatever reason you have, if it's a good reason to you, whatever.
She's gay. It's
but my point being,
get over it.
Here's where I would have rolled with it, right? Because we already know. It's no surprise. We've already had it, and unless you just haven't played the thing.
It was a shock. It was a shock to me what you're going to say because I never played the
Left Behind.
Yeah, I keep saying want to say Lost Bastille.
Okay, but it's been known for in terms of in the universe. This isn't something that, and I know a lot of people who said this. This is not something that they forced with this game. This is something that they already had in their mind and referenced a couple of times in a really small way in The Last of Us, and then really capitalized on in Left Behind, which was the DLC.
It goes back to Last of Us 1 with Bill. People still think Bill's gay. So, like, this actually runs deeper than just Ellie.
Bill is gay. No,
has that been confirmed?
Yes.
Okay, I've never seen it confirmed.
Yes. And actually,
I remember talking to people
there was stuff about
it.
The actor who played him is the one who decided that he was going to be gay. They were like, I feel like there's something else going on here.
That's unusual
right?
for a character.
Which is interesting because the guy was saying, well, it feels like there's something more between these two characters. Like originally they were just supposed to be two people.
That's weird.
I don't want to get too much into it. But my point being with that, the way I think I would have taken the information that we got given to us, right, and rolled with it in a way that I still feel like would have let you have that emotional scene whenever, like, in the context of the story too, right, is that you could have done that entire scene with everything but the kiss for one reason.
Surprising.
You could imply a relationship in a number of ways without ever doing the one thing that confirms it. Right?
Right.
They could have started the thing off so that the scene, the way it goes is that she's in this dance.
I mean, they could have just looked up each other and cut.
Exactly.
And that would have been
look,
cool.
they were already dancing with each other.
Yeah.
They were already looking at each other and having some obvious nods of like, oh wait, is this romantic?
Right.
And then have it to where they look up, cut to the scene of everything that they showed gameplay wise, and then come back. And you know what I mean? They could have done it the way where you're like, I feel like that was there for a reason. Now, of course, I get their reason, right? There's an emotional attachment and an anchor here that has something to do where Ellie has something to lose. And you assume that what they are showing here in this gameplay scene happens after this, right? And then this is somehow looping back into this. You don't think that this is something that's already happened. This is like cutting off to future events.
Oh, really?
And
I actually got the exact opposite.
I don't think so. I feel like this is early game. I feel like this is the beginning, and that you're seeing what's going to come, and that maybe this kiss has something to do with the fact that this is speculation.
Oh, wait, never mind. I am on your side. I thought you were saying that the kiss is late.
No. The kiss happens first, and then it broke off to events of like,
saying,
this is going to have, and I think that the kiss is going to have something to do with the main part of the story anyway.
Where's my boy toy Joel at? I need Joel. Like I want to see what happens with Joel. But I think that would have been another good thing. Just like in the first trailer, it showed Joel for a second there and he said Ellie. That was it. That's all he said. And you're just like, was that a ghost? Like, what's going on here? Like, your brain starts going wild because you're not given that too much information. They could have sat there and gone on and on and on. And then, she looks up and she's like, I'm going to kill them all or whatever she says.
Yeah.
It's like, perfect. Right there. You didn't see
again
any,
vague, and it gives you enough.
Did you even see Joel's face?
Nope.
I didn't think so.
Nope. And that's why people were saying that he's dead. I mean, I don't know that I agree. I think that it would be an interesting twist, but I mean,
Sixth Sense style thing.
Yeah,
Joel was never there.
Or really, it'd be something kind of like what Batman did. I don't want to get into that. It's technically spoiler territory for Arkham Knight.
That's very spoiler territory.
So my point being that there are ways, in the first Last of Us trailer found the way to get me pulled in without giving me too much information. We didn't see her killing him. We didn't see Joel's face. We didn't see her. We were given just enough to go, wait, what?
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really cool opening, and definitely for a first trailer, right? That was a really cool teaser. Way to do that. The second trailer had me asking a lot of questions like, whoa, who are these people?
Yeah.
Who are the two people, right? Who are these two Asian? I thought it was good.
I thought it was really
I thought it was good
bad.
because I was like, who are these two Asian people? They obviously look like they're part of some group, maybe a cult, maybe a religious group, maybe a ethnic, maybe like a. Does this take place somewhere else?
The second trailer is bad for the same reason I was saying that I'm hoping Joel's in it in somewhat because I miss Joel and Ellie. And that second trailer gave me neither really one of them. So
sure.
I was excited to watch it and then very let down at the end by like,
and
who
again,
are these
we're
people?
talking about speculation, right, of things. And this is funny because I was speculating and talking about, but then again, this isn't us giving us concrete evidence, but I look at this like this potentially takes place before even the events of The Last of Us, the first game.
No, you're talking about the second
trailer.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot to be said about that. Partially, and I mean, there's a lot of interesting things,
I guess
right?
we're doing a bad job in terms of spoiling.
But we're not spoiling. We're just talking about stuff. But my point being is that they've done everything well up until, and I even thought that the third trailer was a cool trailer, except for the fact that I think that there would have been a really cool artistic choice to not show the kiss and instead imply every bit of that relationship and just never quite have the kiss. That way, when you finally see the kiss, it feels more like you built towards it.
Yeah.
Because now we've already seen it, and when you're playing the game, you know it's coming. Instead of when you're playing the game, if you saw everything coming up to it, you're like, but did they kiss? And then when it happens, it's like, whoa, they did kiss, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Or does the girlfriend's like brains get blown out at the last second because they there could have been a number of things that happened that
exactly, and it would leave more to imagination.
It's the element of surprise and secrecy, which is what this episode has been about.
Look, and yeah, that's a great point. What you're talking about could have worked in a weirdly well thing. They cut up. Right, they both look up at each other, and then it cuts. It shows all these crazy events, and then it just ends. It never goes back to the present.
Yeah, you don't
and
know
then
what
you can
happened.
go, wait.
Did all this come after? Did all this come before?
Because you assume that part gets to end romantically. That's what I'm saying. Again, if you set up if you set up like you're nodding off like, yeah, there's something romantic here, but you don't get to actually confirm it, then you get to go with your mind like, but wait, what happens? What if now they could have twisted the story, right? And this still could happen, I guess, but they could have twisted the story where right when she was about to kiss her, somebody blows her head, like somebody breaks in and blows her head off. Not that it would happen, but my point being is that the element of surprise goes away in some senses, right? It makes that scene less poignant later because you feel like you know the outcome.
I'm gonna tell you this right now. I guarantee this is what happens. They're gonna kiss, and about 2 minutes later, they're gonna get that entire little gazebo.
It's gonna get attacked.
They're gonna get attacked, and she's gonna die. It's gonna follow that very cliche zombie formula. Not saying a bad thing, but I'm just saying that's what's gonna happen.
So it's gonna pull the first hour of The Last of Us all over again.
Or yeah, actually, or it's gonna do. Walking Dead's done that trope a million times. But in terms of like what Kojima, I gotta say I do agree with Kojima because I do see what he wants. I see that he wants you to experience the game as your own experience, not through various commercials, trailers, YouTube videos, press kits, all this stuff. And I think that a lot of companies, including like Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, and then all these second and third party companies that are promoting games, they could do a good lesson and learn from him, in which it's just one of those things that don't just throw out everything about your game. Leave something for the experience.
I will say I agree with him. And just one more time to play the devil's advocate of just showing both sides is that, yes, I agree. And there's something so great about that. And like my personal anecdotal stories about this is that normally whenever I come up with a game, I don't spend a lot of time looking into it. Whenever Omen's site caught my attention,
exactly, yeah,
I was just like, whoa, this looks awesome.
We both keep ourselves
very
pretty
quickly
in the dark.
did it. And, I was just like, I've seen enough to know that I'm interested in this. I'm going to go ahead and risk my money and just get it. Not everybody's going to do that. That's one thing. But the other side of this is that like we said, it gets perpetuated that all these things get leaked and seen and too much is shown because of games media. But the reason that's kind of a double-edged sword is that if games media would back off, you would have more of a surprise when you were playing these games. But the other element is if the game media is not there to continuously push gaming and continue to make it grow bigger and bigger, gaming media gets game information into the hands of a lot of people, sometimes people who don't even play games, or sometimes pushes people sometimes people from casual gamers into core gamers. Games media is somewhat responsible for that because they keep it in the cultural forefront, where if the games did not have the same kind of coverage they do now, gaming wouldn't have grown as much as it potentially has, gaming potentially wouldn't have grown as big as it has.
Which some would argue to be a good thing. Well, depending on who you talk to.
Well, I mean, not necessarily, right? Because the thing about it is, the more gamers there are, the more of a market there is, the less of a risk it is to make certain games, because you have a bigger group of people. That means that niches grow, right?
Yeah, but then you get some of that toxicity from other people who aren't exactly gamers who then try to be gamers.
Well, maybe, but at the same time,
I don't mean that like a poser way. I mean that like a journalistic way.
And I mean, I get that, but also at the same time, these are people who potentially come in in this way and they're talking that way, but they end up being core gamers and they just have to grow. But the reason I say that is, like, think about it this way, right? The original Nier, original Nier sold. You just now do that?
I just now took my sticker off my laptop. This is a 4-year-old laptop.
Anyway, so the original Nier didn't even sell like 500,000 copies or whatever. But Nier Automata, on the other hand, has sold 3 million copies. Now, of course, that could be partially credited to the fact that it's a better game.
Right.
In terms of gameplay, it's got a great story and it had great word of mouth.
I would say word of mouth is a thing, but like
word of mouth is a big deal. But here's the thing: word of mouth doesn't work unless you have more gamers, right?
No, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that there's more gamers. I'm just saying there are people who would argue with you on that.
Yeah, but I think to an extent you have to let go, because, like I said, the reason I say like niches grow is that like JRPGs were in a pretty dark place in the PS3 360 game, because a lot of the people who were playing games in that time period were people who were specifically coming into gaming for one thing. Well, as it's continued to grow and we get more people in, more people are starting to see, and like games media is responsible for that as well, right? That one JRPG, whatever it is, that gets people to go, you know what, I'm going to try a JRPG for once. And then they go, wait, I really like this.
And
now I'm going to try this one.
Now
I'm going to try this one. And the reason I say that is games media makes that possible. So it's a double-edged sword. It gives too much information away for the people who are already core gamers and don't want it, but it also gives the information needed to get to the people who are casual gamers or who don't play games at all, who see that one thing, who see Detroit, right? And they go, I don't know why, but that looks really cool, and it looks like something I'd actually play. Maybe I'm going to buy a PlayStation, or maybe I'm going to borrow my friend's PlayStation and then play this, love it, buy a PlayStation, start to experiment with other games that are in a similar genre, and then start to expand out. Games media serves a real purpose, but it also serves, anytime that something grows like that, right, it has to have a negative side. The negative side is that too much information, the proliferation of information, right?
Right.
And that's partially the internet, too. The internet has grown to the point where it's so big that you can't escape these things unless you are vigilant about going dark on the things that you care about.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. That's where I say, I want to know what you guys think. I mean, I think that there is obviously both sides to this, and that there's a good and bad side, like I said. What do you guys think? Is gaming media too much? I mean, do they give out too much? Is there a way for them to pull it back while still trying to proliferate gaming and making it grow as a hobby and as a lifestyle? And if are there games that you feel like gave too much information and ruined it for you? Are there games that do you feel like Death Stranding is not giving you enough to let you pull onto it, or do you feel like Kojima is right? I do agree with him on this particularly.
Yeah.
But
Here's the community question of the week. First thing we've ever done. What game have you kept yourself in the dark in intentionally and came out to be absolutely amazing? Let us know that on Twitter or in the comments.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Something you kept yourself
Discord,
dark
hop
on.
over.
Yeah. Something you just did not look up. You did not, like, you saw a game case and you're like, that looks cool, and you picked it up and it turned out to be good. Or maybe even something you saw promotional art for one time and 6 months later it comes out and you get it. Let us know what that game is.
Yeah. All right. Well, until next week, this has been Triangle Squared, and it's a pleasure to serve.